The year is 845. The Viking Age is raging across Europe. From Scandinavia, Norsemen, Vikings, sail down rivers, striking fear wherever they go. Their longships with dragon prows can travel both open seas and shallow rivers, giving them a deadly edge. They raid deep inland, plundering towns and monasteries for silver, gold, and slaves. Leading one of the largest fleets is Ragnar Lodbrok, a name that terrifies the Franks. Ragnar sets his sights on Paris, the heart of West Francia, ruled by Charles the Bold. The Carolingian Empire is divided and vulnerable, the perfect target. In March, Ragnar gathers a fleet, some say 120 ships, over 5,000 warriors. They sail up the Seine, burning towns and spreading terror. The message is clear: resistance is futile. The Vikings are coming. Picture Paris in the 9th century. At its heart was a small island in the river Seine, the Ile de la Cité. Notre Dame Cathedral would one day rise here, but in 845 only a modest church stood. The island held a royal palace, a cathedral, and the homes of Paris's elite. Protected by the river and old Roman walls, it was the city's nerve center. 2 wooden bridges, guarded by towers, linked the island to the riverbanks. This was the fortress the Vikings had set their sights on. For Parisians, life was about to change forever. As word of the Viking fleet spread, panic swept the city. Farmers abandoned their fields, fleeing with families and livestock to the city's limited safety. Merchants hid their valuables, and monks prayed for protection, clutching precious relics. The city became dangerously overcrowded. Food and water grew scarce, rationed with growing anxiety. Blacksmiths worked frantically, forging weapons for the city's defense. Fear and uncertainty filled the air. The defenders were few: Count Odo's soldiers and mostly ordinary citizens. Craftsmen, merchants, even priests, forced to take up arms. They manned the walls and towers, armed with whatever they could find. Morale was low. The king and his army were far away, and the Vikings were at the gates. The siege began in earnest on Easter Sunday, a day of supreme religious importance for the Christian defenders. The timing was likely a deliberate psychological blow by Ragnar. As the Parisians celebrated Easter, the Vikings launched their assault. Their longships attacked the bridge towers, Paris's first line of defense. The Vikings were relentless. Arrows rained down while others tried to scale or burn the towers. The noise was deafening: war cries, splintering wood, screams, and desperate shouts. The Parisians fought back bravely, hurling rocks and boiling water from their towers. The bridges created bottlenecks, letting defenders hold their ground. The Vikings' initial attacks were repulsed, but the Vikings were patient and cunning. They knew they had the city surrounded. Controlling the river, they cut off all supplies and hope of reinforcement. Inside, the city grew desperate. Disease spread through the overcrowded streets. Dysentery ravaged the population and the garrison. The defenders, weakened by hunger and sickness, struggled to man the walls. Each night, Viking campfires burned on the riverbanks, a constant reminder of their enemy. Ragnar didn't need to break the main walls. He knew the city was rotting from within. With no hope of rescue and his men dying, King Charles was trapped. Ragnar, seeing the city's suffering, held all the cards. The Vikings had won the Battle of Wills. With Paris on the brink of destruction, King Charles the Bald made a desperate choice. He paid the Vikings to leave, offering them a massive ransom. This tactic, called Danegeld, was common in the Viking Age. Charles agreed to pay Ragnar 7,000 French livres, over £5,000 of silver and gold. The fortune was gathered by stripping churches and nobles of their wealth. For Ragnar, it was a victory without the bloodshed of storming the city. After the first payment, the Vikings mostly honored the deal. They lifted the siege, but lingered nearby, raiding outlying settlements as the rest of the silver was collected. For them, it was a profitable waiting game. Once paid in full, Ragnar and his fleet sailed home, their ships heavy with treasure. The siege left a deep mark on Francia. For the Franks, it was a humiliation, exposing their king's weakness. It set a precedent. Francia was rich, and its rulers would pay to avoid a fight. This led to decades of further Viking raids, with Paris besieged again in the 880s. The legacy of the siege echoes through history, cementing the Vikings' fearsome reputation and Ragnar's legend. In response, Paris strengthened its defenses, helping it withstand future sieges and rise as France's greatest city. The story of the siege is a reminder of a time when the fate of a city could be bought in silver.